wasn't originally a white box, it was a piece of land, so I can now move this up and re-heal the earth to get that piece of land that I had before. I hold shift once again to go into tweak mode, and we can heal any size square. But what we'll see is if I come over here where I didn't dig out the land very much, if we go to heal the area up above where there was land, it will just heal nothing because there was simply air there, and that's deleting, it's just healing the air back. It's not actually healing any part of ground because there is simply nothing there. Okay, so we'll just delete this Hildur because we don't want that. That is the heal tool. It's quite simple. A lot of people use it for some more advanced features, which I will go into in further tutorials. Now comes the paint tool. Personal favourite of mine. This is the best way for me of making a really big build is by going and building it with the material that you've got plenty of. So for example, this whole platform is made out of stuccoed wall which comes from dirt, and what I can then do is build it all out of this, waste all my materials, then I can go mining and say, oh, I really want it to be an obsidian floor. So what I just did is to select this obsidian, I pressed the Alt key with the paint tool selected, went over to the obsidian that I had in this sign, and I just clicked on it. So this is another way of getting a texture up without having to use the texture menu. You can choose a new texture for painting with. So I've now got obsidian selected. I take it over to my space on the floor, and I just want to write on the floor a nice little pattern. So something simple. And there we go. So that's painted those voxels. So you get the materials back which you had before. So the white has now become black, so you get all the dirt back, and the obsidian's replaced it in the world. So you can paint any item like this. Another way of painting is by using your select tool. So we select it, we click and hold, we drag it over a space, select an area, and then you take your paint tool over until the box turns blue, and click, and that's painted the whole floor into that colour. So we've just decided we don't want that, so we're going to go back to the white, select the area again, paint tool, and back to normal. You could also Control Z once again. Another note on Control Z is I've just painted that white, so if I Control Z it'll go back to black. Also Control Y is redo, so Control Y will take that back to white. That is the paint tool. It does come in circular shape, so we can select another colour. Let's have one of the Lumicite colours. In the circular shape, it will create not perfect circle, a voxel square circle, but you can make sort of funky little quick patterns and fill larger areas with the circle tool. Okay, so we'll go now to the smooth tool. As we've got the earth out, we have all these horrible jagged edges, and we're not happy with how this looks. We want this to be a smooth destroyed ball thing, because the current jaggedy edge ball is not what we want for our perfect ball build. I'm talking about balls a lot. I should save this for tomorrow night. So we have the select tool, and we can make it square or circle once again with C, like all the other tools. It flicks between those two features, and I will go with square. I'll make it a little bit bigger, and we just simply click on a surface, and you see how it makes it a bit smaller. You can click again, it just takes it away, and this is effectively destroying the voxels and reducing the size of an edge and making it smaller. So it's got a softer texture, a softer surface, and hopefully makes it a little bit more believable. It takes away that sort of suspension of belief from the game. And this is what I was saying a moment ago with the delete tool, and this is how you can make terraforming with the delete tool and the smooth tool together, and it looks wonderful in my opinion. The combination of the delete tool and the smooth tool can make some beautiful natural organic, sort of like here we've got almost like a I want to say mite, but it might be stalactite. So we have these shapes here that are looking really nice, so we can continue to smooth that, or we can do some sort of heavy duty smoothing and we can make a massive sphere, and this is going to really destroy it because this is smoothing a lot at once. So you see this hole's actually forming because it's deleting the data. It's smoothed it so much it's disappeared. This will all become completely obsolete by the end of the day, as there will be a patch today, and rumour has it the smooth tool will be becoming a little bit different. We will have the ability to have a slider on it, I believe, that will make it very harsh and abrupt, so it will make these holes, or we'll have it not be quite so abrupt, and it will just be able to soften the edges very gently. So the other way we can use the smooth tool is, once again, like before on the paint tool, we can select the area we want. So we want to click the whole circle. Once again, I'm using the control to go through to the other face and move my selection box down. And then once you've got the area you want selected, you go to your smooth tool and you bring it over the box and it will change it to purple. You click it and it will start smoothing the whole area in one go. There is benefits of doing that and there is disadvantages. Obviously you're going to create these huge artifacts the more you're doing. The more holes that you're creating, the more they're going to start separating. So if you're selecting the whole area as one go and you're suddenly creating all these holes, then you're going to be duplicating them everywhere. Whereas if you're going for a smaller area, you just want to select that little bit and then you won't cause any damage to other parts that you might be really happy with already. So we've got our very obscure semi-bowl thing here. The next tool I want to show you is completely unrelated to that shape, which is a line tool. And to really show off the line tool, I'm just going to make a couple of walls to begin with. So we'll fill these in. So I didn't actually show you this, but like all the other tools, you can select an area, go to your fill tool, and then wait for it to change colour, and click, and there we go, it's filled in all that area into red. And we'll build another wall over here, a bit smaller, and click. And there we go. So I'm going to choose another colour for doing my lines with, so I'll probably run out of red. So the most basic feature of the line tool is you start off with it on its smallest size, and you can click, move over to another surface, and you'll see that the line's red. Oh dear, oh no, we don't want it in red. So you have to play a little bit of a game of trial and error. I saw it go green then. And find the green space. There you go. And when you got to the green space, that means it's perfectly parallel. So here we've got a perfectly parallel line. And the one disadvantage, but also advantage, of the single block line tool is that you can only do these parallel lines with it. There is a few more tricks that you can do with it that I'll go into in later tutorials. But the best part of it for me is that it will show you where you've got two surfaces meeting perfectly aligned. You can also do this with the selection tool. You can measure the surface, but I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a moment. Whereas when you take your line tool you'll start off on this size, you mouse wheel up to get it to the next size, and once again you can press N and that can take it into multiples of 2 or multiples of 3. As I said earlier, I prefer working with multiples of 3, it's totally your own preference. To comment on what Labels has just said in chat, we can actually use the single line voxel tool to do an angle at the moment. I will show that later in the stream though. It makes a 45-degree angle. It won't do a full line, but it will create the actual angle shape that you can then work with later. So what we have here is the 3 voxel line tool, and the difference here is when you click and click to your other side, you'll notice, hang on, it's green in a lot of places, but it's also not red in many places. It goes yellow instead, and this is because you can do angles with the line tool when it's in its bigger sizes. So the game allows you to move to different axes. So what I'll do is quite simply, I'm going to bring it to this top face, and this probably won't work just to prove me wrong, and what it's done is tried to fill in all the detail it can in between that space, and you'll see it has created some artifacting and it doesn't look perfect, and this is quite simply because it isn't perfect. All it's doing in its head is filling that gap, and there isn't enough space in this gap to fill it. So say we do something that looks a bit straighter, it should fill more up. So there we go, we've got a slightly straighter line. It's still on an angle, but it has filled up, and this is one of the great ways of creating roofs in the game, and I will show you simply. So you select the top side and you bring it down and it becomes a surface. You select the top side, bring it down, and it becomes a surface. I've not done that perfectly, but you get the gist. This is one of the most common methods of using the line tool to create roofs in game that I know of, and you can smooth these out so they become thinner, and then you can have a nice crisp roof. I know this is showing quite a lot of imperfections at the moment, and that's what I'll get for not rehearsing my bits before I start the show. So let's just select all of this and delete it. What I've used there as well is the delete key to delete that. I've pressed, once I've selected the area I wanted, I simply, let's bring it all back up, I simply pressed the delete key on the keyboard and it wiped everything there. You can also go to the delete tool by clicking delete tool and hover over until the box turns blue, and voila, get rid of it. Just going to paint the floor back to white. So let's go with the select tool, and this is probably the tool that most people will say they can't live without. It's everything from a ruler to a guide to the biggest area controller in the game. So with the select tool, I've got it on 3. You can take an area as big as you want by clicking and dragging. You can also do it in slightly bigger voxels. I went red there because the bottom of that box is actually at the bottom of my claim, and you can't select any area outside of your claim, and you can't add or delete to that area. In this sense, there is some ways around that that I won't go into. So you can select a large area. So let's select this, and with the selection box open, there's a few things we can do. First thing is we can press shift and hold shift, and it brings our tweak tool arrows up. So with shift held, we can move our selection box up in the air a little bit, and let's move it towards us. So I've already shown you through pressing control and going to the other surfaces, like so. You can also effectively, I've got the bottom surface selected here, so I can drag that up through the top surface and then it becomes the top surface. What I'm going to do is go through to the add tool And I'm just going to fill